Did you know some of the best players on Last Chance U were barely featured on camera? Netflix tends to follow the characters that make for better TV, not for better football. And that was the case for Calvin Jackson Jr. in Season 3 at NDCC. Bro may not have been on your TV very much, but he was definitely a star on the field. I'm Riley Winn with Jukes, and I gotta know, what happened to Calvin Jackson Jr. once the camera stopped rolling? Calvin grew up in Florida, and football has always been a part of his life. His late father, Calvin Jackson Sr., played defensive back for the Miami Dolphins. It was easy to see in high school that Calvin got his athleticism from Pops. He shined at wide receiver for Coral Springs Charter, hauling in 1,500 yards receiving and 23 touchdowns. He also had another 300 yards rushing and 3 more tutties. And when you have an NFL player's kid on your team, you're going to use his talents as much as possible. Calvin also returned the ball for 600 plus yards and 3 more touchdowns. With his numbers and genetics, Calvin was getting recruited to the next level by schools like LSU, FAU, Toledo, and more. But things didn't go as planned.
For everybody out there that's listening right now, make sure just because you're getting offers and all that stuff, you still got to go to school, you still have to do class and stuff like that. So I ended up not being a non-qualifier my last year. Then towards the end of the year, close to graduation, I get a call from Coach Sage that I still talk to this day, great guy. He's at UCLA now. And he was like, you have to go JUCO. I was like, what is JUCO? I never heard of JUCO. I never thought about JUCO or anything like that. And Coach Sage told me he knew Coach Brown, and I trusted Coach Sage throughout this whole recruiting process, and I decided to go to Independence.
Calvin actually showed up to Kansas before Netflix announced they were coming. And once they were there, you barely saw him on camera because he was laser focused on getting back to the next level, back to D1, where he belonged.
Being a main character is something that it didn't really grab my attention too much because I had one goal set in mind, and I told myself before I left Florida to go to Kansas, I was like, I'm gonna do my 2 years in, I'm gonna graduate early, and I'm gonna get out. So when the show came, I was like, okay, this is gonna be pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. But then I had to remind myself, I was like, why am I really here? Like, am I here for the show? Am I here to make it to Power 5? Am I here to go D1? Like, what am I doing?
In his 2 years at Indy, Calvin was named second team all-conference both his freshman and sophomore years. He had 74 catches for over 1,000 yards and helped lead Independence to its first bowl game in school history. My guy's hard work paid off. Even before his second year, he had an offer to go play at Washington State. And for him, it was a no-brainer. He committed on the spot.
At the end of the day, I wanted to play in an offense that threw the ball a lot. Mike Leach is known for that. Throws the ball 70, 80 times a game. Who wouldn't want to be a receiver playing in that?
Calvin lit it up at Wazoo, especially when he played against my Beavs, but I'm totally fucking over it. He got the ball for 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. In 2021, he had the second most receiving yards in the Pac-12. But even with a great senior year, Calvin didn't get a combine invite and relied heavily on his pro day to impress NFL scouts.
Leading up to pro day, it was the past 3 days before pro day was probably the most nerve-wracking days I've ever had in my life because the lights are on, you have all 32 scouts there. They're watching your every move. They're watching everything you do to the T. And it's just like you walk a thin line because you don't want to mess up. You don't want to do this and you don't want to do that. And man, I get the jitters just thinking about it. And went through pro day, had a decent pro day. And I'll tell you a quick story about pro day. Not a lot of people know. My first route that I ran, I dropped in front of all 32 scouts. And let's just say I almost shut down, but I'm glad I have a short mindset. I put it behind me, went through pro day, went very, very well. I'm really happy with the outcome.
The NFL draft comes around and Calvin had been hearing he might go in one of the later rounds. Hell, he even got to see one of his Last Chance U teammates, Jermaine Johnson, get drafted in the first round. We have a What Happened To video on him as well. But the 5th, the 6th, the 7th round go by and Calvin never heard his name. But just like every other time in his football career, he took a different path, but made the most of his opportunity. Calvin had a few hectic weeks, but was invited to both the Dolphins and Jets rookie mini camps to try and earn his spot. And he actually signed with the New York Jets and his old buddy, Jermaine.
As soon as I get ready to go to sleep, I get a call from my agent. I'm like, why is he calling me? Like he called me occasionally, but right now, why? And he's like, congratulations. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, they just offered you a contract. I was like, oh. And right then and there, I just started just a wave of emotions just went through my body. I'm walking up and down the hotel lobby, just smiling, talking to him, like, what's next? What are we doing? Like, when do I have to come back? Or, like, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's do this now. So I signed, and the crazy thing is I signed on my birthday. Yes, the best birthday gift I can ever ask for.
Calvin had to put a crazy amount of work in to get to the NFL. He also had to go through this whole process without his dad. But that doesn't mean he didn't help prepare him for the NFL.
My dad would probably be more excited than me because he's taught me a lot, bro. And it's like we talked on the phone almost every day about just football and about just life and just call and talk. And, you know, after I hung up the phone, you know, the first thing I thought was like, dang, bro, like, I wish my dad was here to like, because that would have been the first person I called. It's just amazing how much a person can impact your life and just show you so much more life than just football. And gosh, it's crazy.
Calvin knows he's not done yet. He's got to keep grinding like he always has. Something that is pretty cool though is Calvin is now one of the few guys from Netflix's Last Chance U to sign to an NFL team. And he also joined an elite group of father-son duos to play in the league. What are some other players who were absolute studs that you're not sure where or what they're up to now? Let me know in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Riley Winn with Jukes. See you on the next one.